Have you ever felt like bitterness is eating you alive, and yet you can't let it go? Do you replay the same painful memories, hoping for a justice that never comes? What if I told you that your resentment, the thing that's draining you, could actually become your source of strength? If you're tired of feeling powerless, stuck in emotional quicksand, and defined by past wounds. This video will show you how Friedrich Nietzsche's radical philosophy can help you reclaim control and transform that pain into personal power. There's one idea in Nietzsche's work that most people misunderstand, but once you grasp it, resentment loses its grip. And in this video, we're going to uncover it, step by step. I used to live in the shadow of betrayal. A close friend lied, took what was mine, and left without apology. For years I held on to it, thinking that my anger was strength. But I wasn't stronger. I was stuck. It wasn't a tea until I stumbled upon Nietzsche's words. He who fights with monsters should be careful lest he thereby become a monster. That I realized I was becoming what I hated. And so began the hardest journey of all. Letting go. Rebuilding. Reinventing. If you've ever seen yourself in that story, if resentment has whispered lies into your ear too, then like this video and drop a comment saying, "I am ready." Let's start this journey together.
You know that feeling that creeps in quietly, when someone wrongs you and walks away like nothing happened.
That sharp sting in your chest that lingers not just for days, but for years. That is resentment. At first it feels righteous. It feels like you're protecting your dignity. It feels like a shield against injustice. But slowly, almost silently, as it becomes a prison. What's strange is how familiar resentment feels. It becomes the default reaction. Someone cuts in line, resentment. You get passed over at work, resentment. A friend forgets your birthday, resentment. And before you know it, you're carrying years of micro wounds like invisible weights. But why? Why does resentment feel safer than release? Because resentment gives us a story where we are the victim and the world is the villain. A story where we don't have to change because we were wronged. It's comforting, in a twisted way. If I'm the one who's been hurt, then I don't have to grow. If they were the problem, then I don't need to take risks. If life is unfair, then staying stuck makes sense. But here's the truth. That familiarity isn't safety, it's stagnation. Resentment feels familiar because it offers a fake sense of control. But deep down, it's rooted in helplessness. It says, I can't change what happened, so I'll hold on to this pain instead. And when pain becomes identity, when bitterness becomes personality, we lose touch with who we really are. Nietzsche saw this trap. He saw how entire lives could be built on hidden resentment, masked as morality, justice, even love. He called it ressentiment, a slow-burning fire that pretends to warm you, but only burns you from the inside. And maybe right now, you feel that too. That low hum of bitterness, that quiet, why me, that plays on loop. But you're not alone. And most importantly, you're not powerless. In the next chapter, we'll uncover how resentment damages not just your peace, but your potential, and why facing it is the first act of reclaiming your strength. But first ask yourself, when was the last time resentment felt comfortable? If this hits home, leave a comment with just one word, enough, because that word might be the beginning of your freedom. At first, resentment whispers, just a slight tension in your jaw, a pause in your breath when that memory flashes back. But over time, it grows teeth. It shows up when you wake up tired, not from lack of sleep, but from emotional exhaustion. It shows up when joy feels distant, even in moments that should be full of it. It shows up in your voice, when you sound sharp without meaning to, or go silent when you should speak. Resentment doesn't just live in your mind, it settles into your body. Chronic stress, tight shoulders, headaches that never fully leave. This isn't imaginary. Science has shown that harboring resentment can raise cortisol levels, weaken your immune system, and even disrupt your sleep. But the real damage, it's in your relationships. You find it harder to trust. You second-guess people's intentions. You brace for betrayal before love even arrives. Because when you've been hurt and you haven't healed, your brain builds a fortress that protects, but also isolates. And inside those walls, growth withers. You become afraid to try, afraid to hope, afraid to open doors that could hurt again. And maybe you don't even notice. Because bitterness wears 1,000 disguises. It can look like sarcasm, or cynicism, or being realistic. But underneath, it's grief. Unspoken, unprocessed, unhealed. Nietzsche warned us, to live is to suffer, but to survive is to find meaning in the suffering. But resentment traps you in the first half. It keeps you suffering without allowing you to evolve. Ask yourself, how many opportunities have I missed because I couldn't let go? How many connections did I sabotage because I was still bleeding from an old cut? This is the hidden cost. Not just what resentment does to you, but what it keeps you from becoming. The version of you that's lighter, freer, more courageous. That version is still possible. But not while you're holding on. In the next part, we'll dive into why resentment feels so necessary, and how Nietzsche helps us break that illusion without denying the pain. But for now, pause. Scan your life for the things resentment has stolen. And if you feel ready, comment. What it took from me was, because naming it is the first step to taking it back. Resentment doesn't grow in a vacuum. It needs soil. And the soil is often pain we never asked for. Think about the last time you felt truly betrayed. Maybe it was a friend who turned their back, a parent who made you feel invisible, a partner who promised forever, then walked away without explanation. These aren't just bad memories. They shake something deeper, your sense of fairness, your trust in the world, your belief that you matter. Resentment takes root when we feel powerless, when we scream inside but no one listens, when we're wronged and the world keeps turning like nothing happened. It's not just about what was done to us. It's about what was taken, our dignity, our sense of control, our version of justice. And so we cling to the story, because the story is all we have left. I was the one who cared more. I was always the one left behind. I did everything right, and they still hurt me. The story becomes armor, but armor is heavy, and the longer we wear it, the more it fuses with who we are. Nietzsche saw this as a dangerous illusion. He called it slave morality, when people define themselves by their wounds instead of their will, when they seek revenge not through action, but through moral superiority. I'm the better person because I suffer more. But is that freedom, or just a prettier prison? We often think holding on to pain is strength, that it makes us principled, righteous, real. But Nietzsche challenges us. What if strength is letting go of the need to be right? What if healing doesn't mean forgetting, but no longer needing the past to justify who we are today? Ask yourself, what injustice still defines your identity? What part of your story do you replay? Not because it's true, but because it gives you meaning. Because in the next part, we'll explore Nietzsche's first radical invitation. To destroy that meaning and build something truer. But before we get there, pause and reflect. What do you believe you lost, that you still haven't forgiven? Comment with one word: control, trust, respect. Whatever your answer is, know that naming it is not weakness. It's the first act of reclaiming power. What if I told you? You don't have to believe the story anymore. Not the story of the betrayal. Not the story of injustice. Not even the story of who you think you are. Nietzsche called this radical step active nihilism. Most people hear nihilism and think of despair, a belief that nothing matters, that life is meaningless. that we're just spinning on a rock in space until we disappear. But Nietzsche saw something different. He saw freedom. He saw that when old values crumble, when your beliefs about justice, identity, even love fall apart, that's not an ending. It's a beginning. Active nihilism is the courage to destroy what no longer serves you. The stories that keep you stuck. The roles you were assigned but never chose. The truths you inherited but never questioned. It's the painful but liberating decision to say, I no longer believe this pain defines me. Yes, you were wronged. Yes, your anger was real, but maybe, just maybe, that chapter is over. And you're allowed to write a new one. This doesn't mean denial, it means liberation. Because if everything you were taught about strength, fairness, or who deserves love came from a broken place, then holding on to those ideas might be what's breaking you now. Nietzsche invites us to go deeper, to look at our resentment and ask, what belief is this pain protecting? Maybe it's the belief that people should be fair, that loyalty should be returned, that love should always be safe. But when the shoulds fail us, what's left? You, your choice, your values, your creation. That's the real breakthrough. Active nihilism isn't about giving up. It's about tearing down old walls so you can build something that's actually yours. So ask yourself, what belief are you ready to break? What truth have you clung to that's become a cage? In the next part, we'll explore what happens when you turn resentment not into silence, but into fuel. Fuel for growth, for reinvention, for real power. But first, drop a comment with the word rebuild if you're ready to create from the ashes. There's a moment when you've cried enough, screamed enough, written the angry letters you'll never send, where something shifts. A quiet voice inside you whispers, what if this pain could become power? Nietzsche believed it could, but only if you were willing to do the hardest thing. Stop waiting for the past to change. He wrote about the transformation of resentment, turning bitterness not into revenge, but into will, the will to evolve, to rise above, to say, this happened, and I still choose who I become. Because here's the secret. Resentment holds energy. It's proof you cared, that you were alive, that something mattered deeply to you. And that's where the transformation begins. You don't erase the pain. You reassign it. From weakness to wisdom. From victimhood to vision. From holding on to becoming. Think of resentment like fire. Left alone, it consumes everything. Your peace, your relationships, your joy. But redirected, it forges steel. It tempers your spirit. It becomes fuel. This is not blind optimism. This is alchemy, turning the lowest point of your life into the launchpad for your highest growth. But how? Start here. Ask yourself, what did this pain reveal about me? Maybe it showed you what you truly value. Maybe it exposed a boundary you never knew you needed. Maybe it uncovered a strength you didn't know you had. You take that insight, and you build with it. Nietzsche believed that the greatest souls are forged in fire, that suffering isn't the end, but the beginning of self-creation. So the next time you feel that tightness in your chest, that familiar bitterness bubbling up, pause, breathe, ask not why me, ask, what can I build from this? Because you can. In the next part, we'll explore the first tool Nietzsche gives us for rebuilding, self-forgiveness, and why forgiving yourself is the bravest thing you'll ever do. But for now, comment the word fuel if you're ready to rise from what tried to break you. Forgiveness. It sounds soft, passive, almost weak. But if you've ever tried to truly forgive, you know it's anything but easy, especially when the person you need to forgive is yourself. We carry so much shame beneath our resentment. Shame for letting it happen, for not speaking up sooner, for staying too long, for not healing fast enough. And sometimes, we hold on to the pain. Because letting go feels like letting ourselves off the hook. But here's the truth Nietzsche saw. You cannot become stronger while hating the parts of you that were weak. The path to power doesn't begin with domination. It begins with integration. Forgiveness isn't saying it didn't matter. It's saying it mattered, and I'm choosing to grow beyond it. You're not forgiving because you were wrong. You're forgiving because you deserve to move forward. There's a part of you, still stuck in that memory, still reliving that betrayal, still replaying that failure, and that part needs your mercy. Imagine this: a younger version of you, sitting alone, confused, broken. Would you scream at them? Or would you sit down beside them and whisper, "I see you. I know you did your best. Let's go home"? That's what self-forgiveness looks like. It's not a moment. It's a practice. Every time resentment rises, you remind yourself, I'm not who I was, and I refuse to punish myself for the pain I didn't deserve. Nietzsche called this self-overcoming. The act of transforming yourself, not by erasing the past, but by integrating it into a stronger whole. It's messy, it's raw, it's real, and it's worth it. Because only when you forgive yourself can you begin to live freely without needing to defend your scars. In the next part, we'll get practical. How do you let go of resentment day by day? What tools actually work? But before that, ask yourself, what part of you still needs your forgiveness? Comment just one word, I forgive, even if it's just the beginning. Letting go sounds simple, but if you've ever tried, you know it feels more like tearing away pieces of yourself. Because resentment doesn't just sit in the mind. It builds homes in your routines, your identity, even your friendships. So how do you actually release it? Not just say you've moved on, but feel it? Let's start with this. You can't let go of something you haven't fully felt. That's why the first step is to sit with the pain. Journal. But not just about what happened. Write how it changed you, what you lost, what you still carry, what you wish someone had said to you back then. Make it real, because only when pain is seen can it be softened. Next, practice mindfulness, not the Instagram kind, the kind where you sit with your breath. Notice the resentment when it arises, and name it. Ah, that's the memory again. Here's the bitterness flaring up. And then, breathe through it. Name. Pause. Breathe. This is how emotional habits are rewired. And then, boundaries. You can't heal in the same environment that broke you. Whether it's a toxic friend, a triggering social feed, or even your own self-talk, create space. Protect your peace like it's sacred, because it is. And finally, rituals of release. Write the memory down and burn the paper. Say out loud, I release this, in the mirror. Cry it out in the car. Scream into a pillow. Release doesn't need to be poetic. It just needs to be real. Nietzsche believed in radical action, not passive hope. Letting go is a verb, and it must be practiced. You don't wait to feel ready. You become ready, through doing. So ask yourself, what do I still replay? That's no longer serving me. In the next part, we'll dive deeper into Nietzsche's most powerful idea, the will to power, and how it's the foundation for a new, resentment-free identity. But first, comment with the word release. Say it, write it, mean it, and let that be your signal to move forward. Now that you've begun to let go, the question becomes, what will you fill that space with? Nietzsche didn't want us to stop at healing. He wanted us to rise, to create, to embody what he called the will to power. But this isn't about controlling others. It's about becoming the author of your own life, the artist of your identity. The will to power is the force within you that says, I don't just survive, I shape. I don't just react, I create. I don't just exist, I become. It's the quiet fire that turns pain into purpose, loss into clarity, resentment into raw fuel for transformation. So how do you live this? First, define your values. Not the ones you were taught, the ones that resonate in your bones. Is it truth? Is it freedom? Is it beauty, love, boldness? Write them. Own them. Build your life around them. Next, practice self-creation. You don't need permission to start over. You don't need consensus to change. You only need the courage to ask, if I didn't owe the past anything, what would I build now? The will to power lives in daily choices. How you speak to yourself, how you handle setbacks, how you refuse to shrink just because it's safer. Nietzsche called this becoming the Übermensch, not a perfect person, but a self-created one who doesn't inherit their meaning, but chooses it. And you've already begun. Every time you reflect instead of react, every time you forgive instead of replay, every time you move instead of freeze, you are living your will to power. In the next and final part, we'll look at what a life beyond resentment really feels like, and how you can begin living it today. But first, if this spoke to you, comment, I create. Because from this moment on, that's who you are. Close your eyes and imagine a life without bitterness. No weight in your chest when you see their name. No tension in your jaw when the memory returns. No more pretending you're over it, because you finally are. That's not a fantasy. It's a future that starts the moment you stop letting resentment speak louder than your truth. Nietzsche didn't promise comfort. He promised freedom. But only for those willing to face the fire and rise through it. And you've done that. You've named the pain, felt it fully, released the stories, forgiven what you thought was unforgivable. And most importantly, you've begun to create again. What does life look like now? It looks like showing up with an open heart, without armor. It looks like joy that isn't weighed down by the past. It looks like setting boundaries, not from fear, but from self-respect. It looks like loving yourself not despite your scars, but because of what they taught you. Living beyond resentment means trusting your voice again, your vision, your values. It means walking forward, not to prove anything to the world, but because you're finally free to be who you are. And yes, some days, the bitterness will whisper. But you'll have the tools, you'll have the strength, you'll have the clarity to say, I've outgrown this pain, because you have. So now, ask yourself, what will I build now that I'm free? Let that question stay with you. Let it shape your mornings, your choices, your next bold move. And if you've made it this far, comment, free, not just as a word, but as a declaration, because Nietzsche gave you the map. But you did the walking, and the life ahead is yours to define.